Welcome back to the Igniting Dreams Within podcast, where we solve life and business problems. I am your host, Ebenezer Mamabolo, and today we are solving the problem of how do we turn depression into purpose. For me, I've never acknowledged or used the word depression in relation to me. But looking back and into how I want to help you turn your depression or turn depression into purpose, I want to share with you a journey or my encounter with depression. I remember the first time when I was going to university and I was accepted and enrolled at VETS. I thought that going to school, I was given the advice that, if you want to be successful in life, study hard, get good grades, go and study at the best universities so that you'll get the best job, so that you'll get the best money. And I followed that path that I was given by my parents. I followed that path that I was given by my teachers at school. I followed that path and it was given everywhere. And growing up in an area or community where poverty is the daily bread, whatever key or whatever thing, even if it's just one thing that helps someone else, all of us want to do it. We tend to forget that what worked for my friends or what worked for someone else might not work for me. Just as I said in my book, There Are No Secrets to Success. Success is relative. What works for you or what makes you successful and fulfills you in terms of your definition of success could be different to me. What I might want for my life, what I might want for my kids, what I might even expect of myself is totally different from what you expect and want out of your life. And so I went to school and I went to Mahoka High School. And I got my good grades. My average was 73. That was my average of all of my grades at the end of the year. So I got accepted at VETS University. And when I got there, the first thing, it was very nice, man. It was very nice in the first month, man. Going to parties, meeting new friends and, coming from a poverty-stricken community and family. That first experience with computer, with internet, oh my God, that was great, man. I still remember the experience. And I remember leaving campus late at night where I met a couple of my friends who saw me that, no, this man is always on the internet. Let me ask, what is this man downloading? And they found that I was downloading movies, I was learning psychology. And to my surprise, it's actually how I discovered how do I deal with depression. I was studying electrical engineering, and while I was studying electrical engineering, I was fascinated by psychology. At the time, I was dating a girl who was a psychologist, and every day when she was given an assignment, she would say, Ebenezer, can you please help me with this assignment? I'm researching, for example, on guys like Viktor Frankl and his theory. I'm researching on Freud, or I was given an assignment on Freud, And it was that encounter with psychology that helped me to discover my own techniques of how do I conquer or how do I solve my depression and turn it into my own life's purpose. The first thing that happened, I remember one time, I was so depressed, I couldn't go to class. When you are pursuing other people's dreams, you get to a point where now pursuing other people's dreams no longer motivate you. Initially it's fun and it's enough when you want to prove people wrong. When you want to prove your teachers wrong, when you want to prove everyone else wrong. But eventually that fuel or that empty fuel runs out. And now you want to pursue success on your own terms. No longer, I was so fed up with pursuing success for my teachers. I was so fed up with pursuing success for my peers. I was so fed up with pursuing success for everyone else, excluding me. And I got to a point where I was like, no, Mr. Mamabolo, now it's time to put people at the back of what you are doing. It's time, if I may use the term, it's time to kick people into the dustbins and their expectations and pursue success and pursue who you really are for yourself. And I did that. And I remember it was a drag, man, waking up at 6 a.m. to take a shower so that I could go to class. Then when I'm in class, doing things that I hated, attending boring lectures on physics, lectures on chemistry, lectures on electrical engineering, lectures on mathematics. I mean, it was a stretch, man. It was a stretch, man. And I remember one time I was in the lab, I began asking myself, Mr. Mamabolo, why are you here, Nji? It wasn't that I didn't know why I was at VETS or why I'm at the highest academic institution in South Africa, but I wanted to know what is my life's purpose. And the first key to turn your depression into purpose, you need to discover, why are you here on earth? And who are you really? I mean, I was fed up with pursuing success in terms of what other people had expected of me, and I wanted to discover success for me. And that's the first key you need to discover, or that's the first thing you need to do. Get to a point where you are fed up. When you are fed up with what people want you to achieve, when you are fed up with what people want you or think it's possible for you or think that you can achieve, get fed up with what people think that success is and should be for you. Now, when you do that, when you take some time to think about, why am I pursuing success based on my teacher's expectation? Why am I pursuing success based on my parents' expectation? You are going to discover the source of your depression. For me, I discovered that me being miserable is that I was pursuing success based on what other people discovered or what other people thought was possible for me. I didn't think it was possible for me to become who I thought I could be or who I dreamed of being. So I became, or I tried to become, who other people wanted me to become so that I'll make lots of money. You know, engineering makes a lot of money, and when you're pursuing engineering, the expectation is that you'll be making a lot of money. And even when you look around in the community or you look around your country, you might find some of the successful people back in the days were engineers. And so I said, okay, let me pursue engineering. And to my surprise, I remember when I wrote my final exams and I was in the library and I took out electrical engineering textbooks, and I said to myself, this I will not study, and this is not someone I want to be. But because I was coming out of a poverty-stricken place, community and area, I said, maybe let me study this electrical engineering so that it will help me make a lot of money and that will take me out of poverty. And what I discovered was that it took me out of what was perceived poverty, and it turned me, or it brought me into a crisis of purpose. You know, instead of pursuing that money, or instead of pursuing electrical engineering so that it would take me out of poverty, electrical engineering, or the pursuit of electrical engineering, got me in the worst poverty of all. The poverty of living a life without purpose, living a life pleasing other people except me. So as we have discussed, or as I've shared, the first thing to discover or to turn your depression into purpose, discover the source of your depression. For me, it was living a life, meeting other people's needs, and not my own needs. For me, it was living the expectations my parents had of me instead of my own. For me, it was meeting or pursuing expectations my teachers had of me and my potential instead of my own. And the second key to turning your depression into purpose, accept what you can't change for you to be able to change yourself. You know, I couldn't change the poverty that I was in. I couldn't change the fact that what I was doing or what I was registered for was not, I couldn't change the fact that I could deregister and get back all my money. I couldn't change the fact that I am in an environment that I do not love, and I'm doing things that I do not love, going to classes that I hate, attending boring lectures. I couldn't change that fact. It was a fact. And I remember when I called my father to tell him that, you know what, Dad, thank you for giving me this opportunity to study at a higher institution of learning. But I am not fulfilled here. I am more miserable than I was at home. It would have been better for me to stay at home saving the money that you've worked all your life for than to be here wasting money, pursuing a career that I hate, pursuing a career that makes me miserable. And thank you for the opportunity. And to my surprise, my dad said, you know what, my son, don't worry about it. I want you to pursue this thing so that you would learn whatever lessons you need to learn out of this experience. And even though I hated what I was doing, I accepted the fact that I can't change the fact that I took an opportunity. And now the odds of me succeeding as an electrical engineer were coming closer and closer to zero. I had to accept that. That was something I couldn't change. But what I could change in that area, or what I could change in that scenario or in that encounter, was myself. So the last key that I want you to take into account as you are going to turn your depression into purpose, accept what you can't change and change yourself. I couldn't change the lectures. I couldn't change the institution that I was in. The only person or the only thing I had control over into changing was myself. So the first thing I did was that I needed to change the meaning I had with studying at Wits University and studying that particular career that I hated. And one thing I asked myself was, what's the one positive thing that I can take out of this depression that I am in? Or what's that one thing, just one thing? I'm not looking for many things, but just one thing I could learn from this depression and turn this depression into my life's purpose. And I discovered that I've never failed in my entire life. I've always been a peak performer, getting certificates at school. I've always been a peak performer everywhere I was at. I was even the chess champion, or the chess top learner, or the top chess player in my primary school. And I had never tasted failure all throughout my life until I was at Wits. So the one positive thing I could take, or that I committed to taking out of that experience, was having a good relationship with failure. And that's what I did. But even though I knew that I was going to fail, or I knew that this was not a career for me, but I wanted to learn how do I deal with failure, so that if tomorrow, after I have pursued a different career, if it happens that I fail, I shouldn't let this failure destroy me or paralyze me. And that's what I did. And yes, it went on, the year went on. I gave my very best. I remember one time where I was giving my very best, cross-nighting for a couple of days. And the first time I burnt out, I was with my friends, where I just passed out. I had spent, I think it was 3 days studying with my friends, doing whatever it is that I could do so that I avoided failing or getting academically excluded. And I was studying. I woke up in the morning, took a shower, ate, went to campus, studied, came back after classes around 5, took another shower, went back to campus and studied, sometimes studying up until 12 a.m., some even 3 a.m., and we even formed study groups. And amen, I gave my very best. Even though I knew that there was a high possibility that I could fail, I didn't want to fail knowing that I was not giving my very best. And even you might find yourself that you are in a career that you do not love, or you might find yourself that you are doing things that make you miserable. But the worst thing you could have is the regret that you never gave your very best. So wherever you are, give your very best, so that when you are done giving your very best, you can't point, or you have got no regret of saying, I wish I had given my very best. Maybe if I had given my very best in the marriage that I had, maybe it wouldn't have had fallen apart. Maybe if I had given my very best to my children, they would love me and appreciate me and have a good relationship with me. Avoid giving mediocrity. My mentor John Maxwell says, once you perform at a peak performance state, or once you achieve peak performance, you have no excuse to be mediocre ever again in your entire life. So I wanted to give my very best. I wanted to give my very best so that even when I failed, or even when I was excluded, I knew that I was excluded, but I've given my very best. And that's what happened. I gave my very best. And when I passed out, we didn't have these smartphones where you've got 40, 20 and more greater megapixels. And what woke me up was the flashlight coming out of my friend Semi Malabati's phone when he was taking me a picture whilst I was sleeping. Sleeping with my school bag and everything. I just passed out on his bed, and what woke me up was that flashlight. So yes, that was in a nutshell of how did I turn my depression into my purpose. And for more information on the journey, or this journey that I took on how do I turn my depression into my purpose, you can find out more of the tools and the techniques that I share, that I used in that experience to help me discover my purpose. I speak in depth and I give you more in-depth knowledge of how I turned my depression into purpose in my book called There Are No Secrets to Success. When you go through that book, you would now discover how then did I change or redefine the success that I was pursuing based on other people's expectations and into my own expectations and into what I really wanted out of my own life. And in that book, or what I discovered while I was now rediscovering or redefining success for me, was that success for me is discovering and pursuing my life's purpose with my family and my loved ones, and enjoying that pursuit and fulfillment of my purpose with them. So get yourself a copy of my book, There Are No Secrets to Success, so that you'll get into the details, the specifics, into more detail of how then did I turn my depression into purpose. And maybe you are saying that, no, Mr. Mamabolo, I don't want to only buy your book. I want you to coach me. How can I turn my depression into purpose? You can contact me on 071 639 7807 so that I will coach you. And I will show you, as a coach, I will show you the exact steps, and I will hold your hand, or I'll go with you into this process, and I will help you. How do you turn your purpose? Or how do you turn your depression into purpose? In the final words, I would say that you are not who society expects you to be. You are not who your parents expect you to be. But you are who you choose to make yourself become. You are who you choose to become, irrespective of where you are, irrespective of what you might be in or the area that you might be failing into your own life. You are not your depression, or you are not the depression that you are going through. You are who you choose to be. Choose to be an uncommon man. Choose to be a man and woman of integrity. Choose to become a man or woman who conquers their depression. Choose to turn your depression into purpose. This has been the Igniting Dreams Within podcast. And today we were solving the problem of how do you turn your depression into purpose. See you next time. Thank you for tuning in, and please share this podcast with your friends and family so that you would also help them turn their depression into their life's purpose. Thank you for tuning in. See you next time, my friend.